of us in Virginia have no idea what the beef cattle industry means to our state.
No, I didn't. I thought they're into stuff like peanuts, ham, tobacco, stuff like that.
If asked the question, what's our number one agricultural commodity, many of us wouldn't think.
Beef cattle, really?
The beef cattle industry contributes significantly to the state's economy, environment, and landscape. It's the natural, viable choice for Virginia's agriculture today and in the future.
How many cows are in Virginia?
Oh, I have no idea.
Just give it a guess.
200,000.
500,000.
Maybe 600,000.
I have no idea at all.
Most people don't realize just how prolific the cattle industry is in the state. With a human population of over 6 million, Virginia's ratio of people to cattle is approximately 3 to 1. For every 3 Virginians, there's 1 head of cattle. The total figure comes to 1.7 million, and 84% of those are beef cattle. What does this mean for Virginia? Well, at the national level, it means we're very competitive. We're ranked 20th in total cattle production and 17th in beef cow numbers. At the state level, it means the cattle industry brings in more than $400 million a year from the sale of cattle and calves. And that tops the cash receipts of all other state crops and livestock. More than broilers, more than dairy, more than tobacco. The beef business is big business for Virginia. Cattle production complements the state's population boom. During the 1980s, the metropolitan areas, particularly from Fairfax County to Virginia Beach, grew 3 times as fast as the non-metropolitan areas. With this movement towards rapid urbanization, grazing cattle represents a way to maintain green space statewide. Also, because cattlemen make their living from the land, they have every incentive to want to protect it and preserve it. They are good stewards of their environment, the land, the water, the grass, and other natural resources. It is in their best interest to follow superior management practices. It is in their best interest to exceed federal and state water and waste regulations. As a result, cattle farms can safely coexist alongside neighborhoods, business communities, and industry. So what are some of the trends in Virginia's beef cattle industry, and why should it be encouraged to expand? To answer these questions, we'll need to talk with some cattlemen, find out what they're doing, how they're implementing technology, and putting cattle's use of forage to work for the state of Virginia.
Can you tell me what forage is?
Isn't it something to do with forestry?
Forage, yeah, that's all that stuff that's like around your house.
And that, they like to scrounge for something, like scrounging for food.
Cattle are ruminant animals. With their 4 stomachs, they have the ability to digest grass and other roughages unsuitable for humans. Things like corn stalks and peanut hulls. This foodstuff is called forage, and cattle can convert it into nutritious quality food that's good for human consumption. There are many advantages in cattle's ability to use forage. Traditionally unusable byproducts from poultry and other food industries can be consumed by cattle. This helps reduce waste disposal problems. Also, land that's not suitable for farming is ideal for cattle grazing. In Virginia alone, cattle are making use of some 5 million acres of land that would otherwise have little value. To cattle producers and Virginia's residents alike, the merits of this are not just economic and environmental, but aesthetic as well. Wide open pastures mean wide open vistas, the very landscape that characterizes some of Virginia's most treasured spots.
I've lived all my life in this area here within a mile or 2 of where we are right now. And I do a little bit of traveling, and as I talk to people around, they refer to the Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, as being one of the most beautiful places in the country, and that it is. We're surrounded by the mountains, and yet we have a fertile soil that produces in abundance. And one of the natural things that we have to enjoy is green grass. And this is a beautiful spot in the country. And the green grass is a natural thing. Bluegrass is natural. The cattle love it, and they do well from it.
But being in the cattle business isn't just about letting cattle out to graze. No, it's much more complicated. In fact, nowadays it's highly technical and specified. In Virginia, the beef industry is divided into 4 basic enterprises. First, there are the seed stock farms. And if you want to see just how progressive cattle breeders are today, this is a good starting place. Capitalizing upon the use of genetics, they work to breed cattle that have superior traits. Nick Weirman and Richard McClung, located near Harrisonburg, are 2 such purebred breeders.
We're in the purebred business essentially because of the challenge and because we thought we could have a much greater impact on the total beef industry by being in the purebred business.
And we're creating this impact through the use of genetic engineering, if you will. We've gotten a very clear signal from the consumer that they want more lean and less fat, and we have built a set of cattle who can do just those things.
As we as purebred breeders become more efficient, the commercial cattle which are produced by our seed stock will become more efficient. As we produce better quality beef, that will be imparted to the commercial people who use our particular seed stock, so that the consumer ultimately benefits both from a standpoint of quality and cost.
Breeders like Nick and Richard are why Virginia has a national reputation for producing quality purebred cattle. Commercial cow-calf farms represent the second and most important beef enterprise in the state. Here, the seed stock we spoke of earlier is used to produce calves. They are born and raised and later weaned after 7 to 9 months. At this point, they weigh between 500 and 600 pounds and primarily eat forage.
Well, Virginia, as you know, has a very strong seed stock industry in beef cattle. And we are customers of that seed stock industry in that we buy bulls, purebred bulls, for use on our commercial cow herd. The basic commodity that any rancher or farmer has is his land. And you start with the soil type you've got and the climate you've got and figure out where you can go from there. And where we go from there is grass. People can't eat grass, so we sell grass by feeding it to these cows and letting them produce a calf that then goes on to a backgrounder and ultimately to a feedlot.
Shortly after being weaned, the calves are sold to backgrounders, number 3 in our list of Virginia beef enterprises. Sometimes called stockers, the background operations nurture more weight onto the calves before selling them to feedlots, most of which are out of state. Al Smith of Dublin runs a backgrounding operation and explains how this benefits Virginia.
We buy the cattle locally here, which contributes to the local economy, providing a market for people that raise the calves. And then we sell most of our cattle to the Midwest or the northern part of the United States for several $1 million every year, which brings money into the state that normally would not be in the economy.
While the majority of cattle farmers are like Al Smith and sell their cattle to feedlots or finishing programs out of state, there are a few feedlots within Virginia. They represent the state's 4th beef enterprise.
What we do here is we take basically a young animal, better known as a feeder to a lot of people in the industry, and we try to produce an end product which is finished beef. It's a higher quality type of beef than what a lot of people would produce off of grass. We finish on a high concentrate ration, low roughage, try to do it as quickly as we can to produce a product which is acceptable to the consumer.
The beef cattle business is complex and scientific, and no matter what kind of farm they have, most cattlemen are consistently looking for ways to run things more efficiently and sensitively. They're developing techniques to dispose of waste, designing unique sheds that comfortably house cattle and eliminate the potential for runoff into streams and groundwater. They're making fertilizer out of municipal and animal waste and feed out of crop residue and byproducts. As Ernie Reeves of Mount Solon explains, they are consciously responding to the times in which we live.
This is the 1990s, and people are more aware of the environment and our effects on the environment now than they ever have been. And we as farmers and ranchers and cattle producers need to do all we can to save the environment and improve the environment and make it better for ourselves and our children and the cattle that we have on this land.
Do you think the beef industry has responded to the consumer demands for a leaner product?
Yes, I do. I mean, there's definitely more of a choice out there now.
Lean beef is an important part of a balanced diet. It's packed with nutrients such as protein, vitamin B12, iron, and zinc. And because cattle are leaner and beef products are more closely trimmed today, beef is more wholesome than ever.
As a registered dietitian, I do recommend the use of beef in a healthy diet. And the reason that I can easily make that recommendation is that today we have such a lean product on the market. The farmers have done a terrific job.
All across the country, cattlemen have shown they are responsive to consumer demands. This responsiveness is reflected in the industry's very infrastructure. In Virginia alone, there are advanced cooperative marketing systems in place. There is a strong state cattlemen's association and several breed associations. Technical and educational support is provided by Virginia Tech and the Cooperative Extension Service, and developmental regulatory assistance is provided by the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. All of these things add up to progress and demonstrate a commitment to growth. Beef cattle are the natural choice for Virginia's agricultural future. Currently, there are acres of underutilized land in the state that could be used as pasture and forage for cattle. There are pounds of crop residue and animal byproducts that could be turned into cheap feedstuff for cattle instead of throwing it out as waste.
The beef cattle industry definitely has a future, a strong future in Virginia. If you look around at these hillsides, you can see that the land is not well adapted to producing commercial crops, but it is very well adapted to grazing cattle.
The beef cattle industry in the state of Virginia has a wonderful future because we have a product that's suitable to the environment, and they do a wonderful job of converting a lot of roughage such as green grass and corn stalks like we see back here, and roughage products as we call them, into a product that is suitable and delicious for human consumption.
There is a chance to see Virginia's countryside hold on to its farming heritage and its wide open spaces. Virginia's cattle industry truly is a blue ribbon commodity.